Hello and welcome to Smoko with Maurio episode 4. So it's Anzac Day 2021, 26th of April, I believe, and it's also was my mother-in-law Gladys's birthday. Unfortunately, Gladys is not with us any longer, but still dear to our hearts. And so yes, Anzac Day. So for today I managed to track down some date scones. I've talked about the date scones before from Countdown, and prior to filming I have sampled, well, the other two. They come in a pack of 4, and these are beautiful. These are primo date scones. They're my top date scone, particularly for a production date scone. Look at the datage in that. Look at how much dates there are in that, and they've just got a beautiful moistness about them. They're not dry. I've got just having them with butter, and yeah, they're just very nice date scone. One of my top date scones. A cup of tea, the old Twinings English breakfast, in a lovely mug. You'll notice that I'm on my own today. I have had an offer from Moz, which is in the offing there. He's indicated that there's something's coming my way that will enable us to do something about this. So yes, we're working on that. And I also went to get the date scones, and I also found some of these Anzac biscuits. The Anzac biscuit, a traditional Kiwi and Australian biscuit. The Australian New Zealand Army Corps, the Anzacs. There. So these Anzac biscuits are made out of egg and soy, all sorts of things. Oatmeal, I think they are. They're a very good dunker. Very sweet. I'm not sure the exact origin of them as to whether the ladies at home bake them for the guys overseas, or what the actual origin of them is, but a very nice biscuit, a bit softer than the ginger nut, but yeah, very nice. And I'll get into the date scone first. Now I'm sitting in a different posse today. I went to set up my usual place on the deck, but my neighbour was out working in the garden, and well, I'm a little self-conscious about that. But anyway, let's have a crack at one of these date scones. Very nice. So yes, it's as I say, Anzac Day. Now, my dad was an Anzac, and I think he went to the Second World War, not the First World War, the Second World War, and when he was 19, I think, 19. And yes, he was the only one from his family to go there. He had an elder sister, and possibly, yes, another the next sibling was younger sister, and then 2 younger brothers, who must have been, just a few, just on the cusp. So I don't think Uncle Brian or Uncle Gary went to overseas. Dad travelled overseas, and he didn't talk a lot about his trips overseas. Talked a lot about his mates. He'd often, you'd hear him say, "Oh, that's Jock Vincent." I remember there was a guy in Levin who had a fruit store. He said, "Oh yeah, I remember him." And then he talked about different guys that had been overseas. They all called him Dan. My dad's name was Peter James, PJ, but they all called him Dan because he somehow got the job. He was in the Signal Corps. He had worked for the post office and been a telegraph boy, so he was like a radio signal guy. And apparently, the way Dad tells the story is that when they arrived at camp the first time or somewhere, the guy in charge gave him a shovel and said, "Well, you're going to be called Dan the Dunny Man, and your job is to dig the long drop or the toilet or latrine or whatever you want to call it." So that was Dad's job, and everyone called him Dan, apparently. So, and apparently he spent time in the Middle East, in the desert, I think, or in the sand or something like that. He references Cairo, and a couple of his sort of stories. There weren't that many of them. And Italy, he was in Italy as well, and then came home and carried on. Now, yeah, Dad was not a great guy for going to the Anzac parades. I don't know whether it was just a day off and he looked after us kids so Mum could have a bit of a rest or whatever, but yeah, he did sort of, I think perhaps in his early days he used to catch up with some of his old comrades and things before he was married, but I can never remember him taking us to the Anzac parade or anything like that. I don't think they actually, maybe not if they didn't have one at Tite Bay, I don't know. Or they had an RSA, and Dad, he had a badge, and I think he used to be a member, but we just used to go to the RSA Christmas party, and they'd have presents for all the kids and stuff like that. So that was about it. Dad never talked about it, and we never, as a family, celebrated Anzac Day at all. So it's never been in my been a habit of mine to. But in recent years, I've found that it's become more. People go along more. I don't know why it is, but I've tended to just keep my own counsel on that. But just recently, I've been thinking. I see a lot of things around the. People talking at SMOKO and stuff like that about various things, and people have like this PTSD, post-traumatic shock syndrome, or whatever it is, and a lot of these things of people suffering from depression, all manner of sort of things from trauma in their past and that. And I think back to Dad and the guys that I grew up with and their parents, a lot of them who went to the war and did things like that. And I can only think that these conditions that we know so much about now were present and hidden And perhaps, you know, some of the guys I went to school with, perhaps, you know, their parents or their dads were very tough men, very had little, didn't show their emotions, you know, played a pretty straight bat, as they say. And my dad was pretty much like that. He did a lot of stuff for us as kids, but didn't, you know, we didn't talk a lot of in-depth sort of stuff. It was all, you know, pretty, have a laugh and a joke and things like that, but nothing too deep and meaningful. But yeah, interesting times. My mum was also part of the war effort as well, although she stayed at home. So her father died when she was 4. So she was in a single parent family. And just her and her mother, actually. Her brother went overseas in the Navy. So he joined the New Zealand Navy. He went overseas and came back. But he didn't. He died quite young after his return. I don't know whether it was related to the war. And also in my dad's case, it died quite young as well. I feel that possibly a lot of the things that he saw and did, or the trauma that he perhaps encountered during the war, probably did lessen his life, or sort of decreased his life expectancy somewhat. So although, you know, he's a pretty stable and straight sort of guy, you know, it must have had an effect on him, you know, based on what we know today and things like that. So yeah, very intriguing. Now, Mum, of course, as I said, was a single parent family, just her and her mother, and she was asked to go down to Wellington and work for her part in the war effort, and left her mother in Palmerston North, not that far away, but in those days a significant journey, and you know, a few hours on a train, and yeah, I don't know whether how regularly the trains went and during that time, but that was quite traumatic for her as well. So my parents married relatively late for the time, and for that time I think they were both in their 30s when they got married and had 5 children. Mum was in her 40s when she had my younger brother. So yeah, but yeah, they had, and then on top of that they had I'm the oldest, and then I have 3 sisters, and they're deaf. The 3 girls were all born deaf, which added some interesting challenges to my parents, which they faced and met, and yeah, did the best they could to give my sisters a reasonable chance at life, a good, you know, quality of life, and I think they achieved that pretty well. I have one of these Anzac biscuit. Bloody marvellous. So yeah, Anzac Day's not a big day for me in terms of celebrating publicly, but certainly a day when I reflect. We've got tomorrow off, so looking forward to a good sleep in. This morning I've the second leg of my infusion up in the hospital, so went for an infusion up in the hospital this morning, and the second leg of it today, so I'm all done, so I can have a nice sleep in tomorrow. And then it's back to face the students in the classroom on Tuesday. I'm hoping for a miracle tomorrow, and that is that I'll get all my marking done. Yeah, and my prep for classes and all sorts of things. So we'll just have to see how that goes. I'll have a few Anzac biscuits to see me through, but I think the scones are going to go today. So so one of the cats is circling about here. Fairs. I don't know whether he's going to come and see me or not, but he's just hopped on the top of my car and having a good look around. So yeah, good old cup of tea and some date scones. Some of the best date scones you'll ever. These are cold. You can warm them up, of course. Have them nice and warm. So, last week, interesting week. So the second week of our break. Big plans that didn't eventuate, but I got a few things done. I'm quite pleased with sort of what I got done. And then the Thursday and the Friday, we had workshops. A workshop on cultural responsiveness. Very intriguing. Very interesting. But yeah, the organisation is trying to make itself more culturally responsive to Maori and Pacifica in particular, but all people, just to make sure that they're getting a fair crack at the table, so to speak. So here we have Fairs. He's come to check out the Anzac biscuits and the date scones. This is Fairs. He's our youngest tabby. He's the one whose people's name, people remember his name, but that right, Fairs. But the one that's with me the most is actually Nikki, and Nikki's the one I did my Instagram with yesterday. Fairs not so much. He tends to spend a lot of time with my daughter and her partner Drew, and but Nikki's the one that's usually around me. He's not here at the moment. He might pop in for a bit of a visit at some time. We'll just have to wait and see. So yeah, bit of cultural responsiveness there. So my job was to provide I don't know why, I'm a bit like my dad, who's called Dan, I suppose, because he always dug with Dunny, but I don't know what my colleagues call me, but I tend to be well, I'm the lead of the small events team, and so there's three of us that we sort of help to organise the various events within our organisation, or our team, SEED, Centre for Engineering and Industrial Design. So I tend to that. So I've always sort of organised. So I organised a morning tea for the Thursday, and I went in and got some cupcakes and interestingly some Anzac biscuits. That's why I knew that these Anzac biscuits were available. They're usually only around. I think they're usually only around on the Anzac Day. I'm not sure whether they're around year round, but and there's another brand of them that actually give a small donation to the RSA, the Return Servicemen's Association here in New Zealand. In Australia, I think it's the RSL, Return Servicemen's League, and I don't know what it is in some other countries, but and the donation for their they're usually a charitable organisation, so a bit of a some money, for them to do their good deeds and things. Well, one thing I'll say about the dates gone, they do take a little bit of eating. They're quite, should I say, filling. So, yeah. Hope I might not get them finished today. Now, the half-hour smoko. So maybe leave one for the later on. So yes, that was the morning tea, the cupcakes and the Anzac biscuits. And then on the Friday, I organised my usual lunch type thing where I buy the big loaves of Mackenzie bread, which goes like, and then a selection of stuff to put on them: some ham, chicken, cheese, cottage cheese, feta cheese, camembert, brie, selection of cheeses, tomatoes, avocados, sun-dried tomatoes. Pickles are very popular. Farm style pickle, and various other seasonal things that are available. Bit of lettuce, some bread, and the guys all make their own sandwiches or wraps. I sometimes buy wraps as well. I seem to like it. Everyone gets what they want. Now I also bought some biscuits as well. Oh, that's when I bought the Anzac biscuits. That's right. I didn't buy them on the first day. It was cupcakes and chocolate cake the first day, and then the Anzac biscuits on the Friday. So yeah, that went down pretty well. So one thing I do get really not sick of, but makes me laugh. People think that because I'm a tutor in the schools on a break, the students are not there, that I'm not there. And, what did you do over your holidays? I didn't have a holiday. The only difference was there was no students there. So I had to talk to my colleagues. But yeah, so it is quite a relaxing time, and quite a time where you can plan and put some deep thought into things without having the hustle and bustle of classes and students and that sort of thing. So we're back for another 7 or 8 weeks of hustle and bustle. Then it's exam time. Then another 3-week break. And semester 2, a whole lot of new subjects. So, yes, some interesting smoko situations. When I first, there's some strange little habits and peculiarities that people have or that develop around smoko. I remember my very first, job that I had in the Ministry of Works at Porirua. I remember the boss there, Arthur Tideman. He asked me one day, because they'd ask you to make the tea. Usually you'd make the tea, which was usually one of those big aluminium teapots, and you'd chuck a few spoons of tea in it and fill it up with water. And he insisted that we didn't use water from the zip. I don't know. Well, zips they were a big cylinder thing that had a big glass tube up the side of them, and you'd fill that up from the tap, and then turn it on, push a little button push a little button in at the top with a string on it. It had a string on it, and then it would, when it boiled, the button would pop out, and you'd have hot water, and you could, turn it on at various points during the day. But he insisted that we had to use cold boiled water, not like hot water from the zip, and then boil that in the jug. It must have been, because it affected the taste of the tea. Apparently, didn't make good tea, according to Arthur's thing. He was a good bloke, really top bloke. But yeah, that was his little peculiarity, that you had to do that. He reckoned he could tell, The other interesting thing too about smoko, I guess, is the association with cigarette smoking, because we used to smoke at work, and it was a smoko break. We used to have ashtrays everywhere, around the office, and here, there, and everywhere. They would be there, and smoke, making the cup of tea, and then sit down at the table. There used to be maybe, I think in those days, it was probably the non-smokers that went outside to get some fresh air and stuff like that, but not the smokers. But then it's carried on, and it's traditionally just a tea break called smoko. Carries on over from days gone by. So I'm just about finished here. So, what plans do we have? Well, I've got a little something coming from Moz, so I'm full of expectation for that, and we'll see how what comes about with that. I've had the Anzac biscuit here, bit of dunking there on Anzac Day. I've still got another scone left there, and the date scones. So there is another dunking biscuit, which I reckon is it's an interesting hybrid, in my opinion, and I wouldn't mind exploring that. But there's a few other things that we can do. But coming up this week, of course, we've got the holiday on Monday, and then 4 days of students, which is interesting for their return, to see what they've been up to and that. So yeah. So this has been episode 4 of Smoko with Maurio. I am looking to have people join me for Smoko. If you think that you've got something to offer, or you'd like to just come along and join in the fun, or get a free feed, you're more than welcome to join us. It's, bloody marvellous. So yeah, hopefully we'll see you soon. See you next week or sometime soon. So have a great week. Cheers.